Everyone, this is Strawberry Podfics. This is Hysterical by Spark the Fangirl, Chapter 4, Red, White, and Gold Glitter, Part 2. Golly jeez, it's All Might! See, Midoriya, I called you here to discuss your future. You have here written that you want to be a hero and train at UA. The teacher held up a sheet the students had filled out a few days prior. Yup, Midoriya's foot tapped anxiously. Mr. Shibata sighed. I think it's time you start thinking less about what you want to do and more about what you can do. It's simply not practical for you to become a hero. Why not? Midoriya interrupted, finding himself growing upset. What? Sorry? Why can't I? I'm fit enough. I have the grades, and I know I have the drive, so why can't I become a hero? Midoriya, please. He sounded exasperated. Don't make this harder than it is. Your quirk is just not fit to be a hero. I read your file. You would get one hit in before you break yourself and become completely useless. It's just not feasible. Well, then I'll have to make that one hit count. Midoriya, please be reasonable. The boy stood up. If that's all, I will be leaving now. Midoriya, I am trying to help you here. Well, I don't need your help to become a hero. Thanks. I'm doing fine on my own. You're weak. Your quirk is useless. You won't last a week. This is a perfect example of what not to say to a student when discussing their dream career. Future teachers, take notes. However, Mr. Shibata is a complete and utter idiot with no regard for human emotions aside from his own, who deserves to be crushed in a trash compactor or some equally terrible fate, such as being repeatedly awakened at 6 in the morning on Saturday by your demon spawn of a neighbor deciding to mow his lawn. But I digress. Midoriya, the poor boy, ran out of the room, bag clutched in his arms before the man could see the tears gathering in his eyes. It was only after he got a few blocks away from the school that it dawned on him. He just got into an argument with a teacher, and said teacher had told him he was useless and couldn't become a hero. That thought made Midoriya feel slightly better about yelling at him. He was walking through an underpass when he heard a sound behind him. His reasoning for taking the route had been that it would be the fastest way to get to Bakugo's house. However, he would have most likely avoided it if he had known that taking it would result in him being suffocated by mud. The experience was an unpleasant one. Specifically, Midoriya was not thrilled at the taste of the slime slipping through his teeth. Midoriya said. I do not know what he was trying to say, but I can infer it was something along the lines of, "Ew, please stop forcing yourself into my mouth." Or perhaps, knowing him, just a sarcastic, "This day could not get any better." Just when Midoriya's vision started to go black, a huge punch came out of nowhere and blew the villain apart. The punch was not an ordinary punch, mind you. You might even say it was extraordinary. This was because All Might had been the puncher, and he was widely regarded as a very good puncher. I am inclined to agree with this, as the punch managed to blow the villain apart and still left Midoriya completely unscathed. Although, honestly, I doubt he'd mind if he was punched by All Might, being the fanboy he is. I am of the opinion he would treasure the moment as much as any autograph. Midoriya, forgetting that there was goo in his mouth and lungs, attempted to acknowledge the hero who had just saved him. This did not go as planned, and he ended up just hacking for several minutes. All Might quickly gathered the villain into 2 large bottles, and then proceeded to stand by, watching as Midoriya tried his hardest to upchuck a lung. Once he managed to get himself under control, he stood shakily and uttered a breathless, "All Might! Hello, young boy. I apologize for the disturbance. Are you all right?" "Yup," Midoriya squeaked. "Totally peachy." All Might, mistaking his fanboy panic for just panic of the "I nearly died" variety, bent down to examine him. "Are you positive?" Midoriya nodded. "Well, if you're sure, I hate to leave so soon, but I'm afraid I'm on a rather tight schedule." He bent his knees and prepared to take off. "Wait, I wanted to ask you something!" The end of Midoriya's very rushed sentence was lost to the wind as he took to the air hanging on All Might's leg. All Might seemed slightly disturbed at the fact that this seemingly suicidal boy was now clinging to his leg hundreds of feet in the air. He logically landed on a nearby roof. "What were you thinking?" I wanted to ask you something," Midoriya repeated rather pathetically. "Look, kid, I really need to go. Can I be a hero with a useless quirk?" I mean, it's not entirely useless. I can't feel pain, which is actually really nice. It's just that it's not really heroic or anything, and everyone tells me, "Hold up, your quirk is that you can't feel pain?" Among other things. That was an understatement. The immortality aspect of his quirk was perhaps the most important part. However, Midoriya was not used to explicitly talking about that, so he opted to stay silent on that bit. His omission was missed as a cloud of smoke enveloped All Might and left a stick figure in his place. "What?" Midoriya said in a mix of awe and confusion. All Might sighed. "I have something to tell you." What followed was a long-winded explanation that involved losing organs, a time limit, and holding one's abs while swimming. Midoriya wasn't entirely sure he understood the analogy, but the rest made sense enough. That being said, I'd appreciate it if you don't tell anyone else about this, All Might finished. All right. You don't seem very surprised about all this. Yeah, well, my quirk's weird too. A quirk that makes you spit blood and turn into a scarecrow when you use it doesn't seem that far-fetched. Oh, I suppose so. All Might seem to have never thought of it that way. About me being a hero with a lame quirk, Midoriya prodded. Yes, that. All Might tilted his head and thought, you can't. What? If you want to save people, become a police officer or something. Being a hero is far too dangerous. Look at me, he chuckled. Seriously, though, you can get really hurt. I can't feel pain, though. That's literally my quirk, Midoriya pleaded. There's even a self-healing aspect, so I won't even be out of commission for long. Even still, villains don't aim to injure, his voice lowered ominously. They aim to kill. All Might opened a door that led to a stairwell. Regardless of your quirk, there's no way to come back from the dead. Sorry, kid, but you need more passion to become a hero. But you need more than passion to become a hero. Midoriya was left stunned and sputtering on the rooftop. Even his hero didn't believe in him, and yet that didn't really change anything. Midoriya had been having his doubts that day, what with the argument with Mr. Shibata and asking All Might. Well, he hoped it would be a confirmation that he could be a hero, regardless of what people said. But that wasn't the way it went. But still, what was it he had said? Regardless of your quirk, there's no way to come back from the dead. Midoriya laughed out loud, the noise bubbling out of him in relief. And that's where you're wrong, he said aloud. He knew he would become a hero. And then on to the next part. Part 3. Bakugo was simply making his way from school to his home when the universe decided he should be eaten by a slime. Bakugo was not a fan of this decision, something he made very clear by him screaming loudly in anger and attempting to blow up the villain. This did not cause the villain to let him go, but it did succeed in drawing a crowd who called in the heroes. Although typically that would be a good thing, the heroes that came were very clearly not fit for the situation, and honestly probably should have stayed at their agencies and waited for a crime that was more suited to their specific talents. All this meant that there were multiple witnesses, much to his embarrassment, as Bakugo unsuccessfully exploded. Internally, Bakugo was blaming Midoriya for this situation. He had no reason to do this, albeit that he always internally blamed someone for all his problems, and it was simply a coincidence that this was slightly Midoriya's fault. I say that quite loosely. It was only his fault in that he accidentally caused All Might to drop the villain while he clung to his leg. Mostly, it was the villain himself who was to blame. Really, Bakugo should be blaming the sludge villain for attacking him, not Midoriya for causing him to be in the area he was when he got attacked. Which was kind of funny if you think about it. He was subconsciously blaming his friend, who was sort of at fault, but not for the reason he thought. And I'm getting sidetracked when really I should be covering the fact that Bakugo was quite literally dying. Luckily, before he snuffed it, he caught sight of a familiar bag soaring through the air and into the villain. Unfortunately, because at that moment Bakugo himself was in the villain, the bag also hit his face. Let go of him, Midoriya yelled. You again, fucking brat! The villain hissed. I'll kill you! I'd like to see you try! You can't kill a fly, Midoriya taunted. He figured that if he could get the villain to attack him, Bakugo would be able to run free. He was ridiculously surprised when that was what actually happened. I'll show you, twerp! And with that, Midoriya was once again eating mud. The experience caused him to swear off all Jell-O for the remainder of his days, sure that the texture would cause him to barf. The feeling was so unpleasant, he found himself wishing he'd just die, as once dead he would not be able to taste. Also because, while not painful, the experience of suffocating was not enjoyable. His wish was granted in a timely manner, and only moments before All Might came careening through the sky to deliver a literal weather-changing punch that scattered the villain all across town. This left Bakugo in the awkward situation of trying to hide his friend's corpse from the heroes. He did an admirable job managing to drag him down an alleyway while everyone else was focused on the sudden arrival of All Might. It truly was a testament to the love of All Might that the two boys escaped without being seen, or perhaps just a testament to shoddy writing. Midoriya awoke to a slap across the face. Hi, Kachan, he coughed, having inhaled some glitter. Well then, I suppose I can check suffocation off my suicide bucket list. Bakugo chose to ignore that last little bit. Sure took your sweet time. My bad. I'll try to resurrect myself faster next time. You better. Now let's get out of here. I bet all the heroes are trying to find us. They don't know where we are? It was that, or I explained to the officer how my friend isn't dead. He's just sleeping. Bakugo raised an eyebrow at Midoriya. Can't see that going over so well. All right, fair enough. Midoriya stood and brushed the glitter off his jeans. With a hop and a skip, he jumped onto a dumpster and jumped once more to grab the bottom of a fire escape, which he proceeded to climb like some freak hybrid of a monkey and a spider. Now that I think about it, he could just be compared to a normal spider monkey, a very real thing I try to avoid thinking about most of the time. Well, you coming or not? He called. He called down once he reached the top of the building. Bakugo rolled his eyes. You're so extra, you know that, right? He said before moving to follow his friend's lead. That's why you love me. The two had slowed their pace once they neared Bakugo's house and stopped for a moment on a rooftop not far from his apartment complex to catch their breath. So, we still on for that movie? Izu, I almost died. Midoriya rolled his eyes. Clearly you're not trying hard enough. I did. You always die. I am pretty impressive like that, aren't I? Bakugo snorted. You have a way of making traumatic situations seem pretty ordinary. At that moment, a man crashed down in front of them, having just flown through the sky to land on the roof. The man was All Might, of course, just barely holding on to his form. I am here to talk to you. All Might? The boys exclaimed at the same time. How did you get away from the reporters? Midoriya asked. Not a problem for me. Besides, they were quite distracted looking for you two. All Might shook a finger at them. Naughty, naughty. All that sneaking around had the heroes worried. There was a veil of smoke starting to pour from his body. But enough of that. I wanted to speak to you, Midoriya. Okay. He made no move to leave. Alone, please. I'll just tell Kachan whatever you tell me. What? Couldn't you? All Might transformed. Well, shit, he sighed. Eh? Bakugo exclaimed. And that is the end of those two parts. For this, there's more parts for this chapter, but I am not going to read them right now. You know what to do. Comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I will see you next time.